How many stakeholders does it take to change a light bulb? 1 to do the planning and logistics, 1 to object to it, 1 to approve of it, 1 to monitor progress, 5 to stand around arguing about who's going to pay for it, and 1 to take credit for the idea. As ridiculous as this sounds, we can't dodge the fact that stakeholders are a spectrum of individuals with different needs and perspectives, and if you want to avoid having 10 people arguing about something as simple as changing a light bulb, then stick around, I'll show you exactly what to do. Hi, my name is Raf, and welcome to RISR, where my mission is to help you go further, faster. In previous videos, I covered what stakeholder management is, why it's so important, the different types of stakeholders, and how to prioritize your stakeholders. If you're interested in any of those topics, then I've listed the stakeholder management playlist in the description box below, so knock yourself out. This video, however, is all about stakeholder engagement in business, which is the process of managing the expectations and needs of all the people who have some sort of stake in whatever you're doing. And we engage those stakeholders to get their input and feedback, which might include their insights, their needs, and their concerns. When you're able to engage stakeholders effectively, you'll discover that you can develop a deeper understanding of their needs and expectations. You can build trust and credibility with them. You'll be able to get their buy-in for your ideas and initiatives. You'll be able to identify new opportunities for growth and development, and even increase your visibility and influence within your organization and industry. If you don't, you might end up with 10 very angry stakeholders and a broken light bulb. Stakeholder engagement is often thought of as something that's a part of project management, which it is, but it's also part of daily life. So what I'm about to show you can also be used as a framework in almost any situation involving people. It's a great life skill and a really transferable one too. What I'm about to show you is how to engage stakeholders front to back. I'm going to take you step by step through every aspect, from putting together a stakeholder engagement plan to how to figure out ways to actually engage those stakeholders in powerful ways, and finally, something you might not have considered, which is how to figure out if you were successful in doing all of this. And if you stick around, I've also got a pro tip from my own career, having run and overseen many initiatives, some of them affecting thousands of company employees and millions of external stakeholders. And I've also got a free gift to share with you, which will help you with your most important stakeholder with the potential to turbocharge your career. Okay, firstly, because a goal without a plan is just a wish, we need to start off with that stakeholder engagement plan. Now, I want you to imagine for a minute that your company is implementing a new sales and support platform, which will be used to capture and manage all customer inquiries and complaints. It's replacing an old platform that's clunky and out of date. And you are a project director with the awesome but arduous responsibility for making sure that everything is on track at all times, right through to completion. There are many stakeholders involved, and you know that you're going to need to engage them in the right ways to make sure that everything runs smoothly, addressing their needs and meeting their expectations. So, wow, where do we begin? The first thing you need to do when creating a stakeholder engagement plan is make sure that you are super clear on the overall goals of whatever you're trying to achieve. Luckily, in our example, you already know what this is. The new platform's being launched in order to improve efficiency and customer experience while reducing operational costs. And you've got a whole business case to refer to for metrics around those drivers. And also, for the sake of our example, you've already done the work of analyzing, prioritizing, and then segmenting your stakeholders into 3 groups: employees of your organization, customers who are large end users purchasing directly from your organization, and partners who purchase from you and resell on to smaller end users. So for your own work, you'll need to make sure that you're clear on your goals and that you do the equivalent segmentation. If you want to know how to do this, you're in luck, because in previous videos I went in depth into how to identify, categorize, and prioritize your stakeholders into these groups. So if you need to, then refer to those videos, but make sure you do this part properly. But coming back to our current example, we've got our employees, customers, and partner groups. The next thing you'll want to do is define your engagement objectives for each of these groups. How do you do this? Well, bearing your overall goals in mind, ask yourself what you hope to achieve for each of them. For example, do you want to say build trust with your partners? Do you want to gather the input and feedback of your customers? Maybe you want to gain support for what you're doing or a particular part of what you're doing from your employees, or maybe just keep them informed. Think this through properly, and when defining your engagement objectives, just remember that they should be SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Probably sounds difficult, but not when you go through the process, so let's do this now for our project. For us, the SMART objectives for employees could be, and these are just some examples off the top of my head, to increase their adoption of the new digital platform to achieve 80% adoption rate, that's 80% of them using it, within the next 6 months. And for argument's sake, let's say also to improve their engagement by 25% when compared to the old platform that's currently in use. And we also want to achieve this within the same time period of, let's say, 6 months. Now let's test to see if this is actually SMART. Well, the objective is specific because it focuses on a particular goal, which is to increase employee engagement and adoption of the digital platform. It's measurable because it can be quantified by tracking employee participation and adoption rates. It's achievable because the organization can provide training, gamification, and incentives, amongst other things, to encourage employee participation. And it's relevant because employee engagement is crucial for the success of this initiative. Lastly, it's time-bound because it has a clear deadline of 6 months, providing a sense of urgency and focus. So you'll obviously work out all the other stakeholder segments through in exactly the same way. To save time, I'm not going to do that here, but let's assume that we have in this example. Now, with your SMART objectives in hand, it's time to move on to part 2, which is how to develop tailored engagement strategies for each of these stakeholder groups that caters to each group's unique characteristics, interests, and needs. So again, using our example, for employees, and let's refer back and figure out exactly how we're going to achieve those SMART objectives, you might want to conduct regular training sessions to make sure that employees understand the new digital platform's features, benefits, and functionality. That seems logical. You might want to incorporate gamification techniques to make training sessions more engaging and enjoyable for employees. You can think about offering incentives, such as reward and recognition programs with individuals, or team challenges to encourage employees to adopt the new digital platform. Maybe get teams to compete in a video competition, showing them using it in the most creative ways that make them more productive. Maybe create a feedback loop where employees can provide suggestions, feedback, and ideas on how to improve the digital platform's usability and effectiveness. Tons of ideas that you can apply. These are just some random examples to bring it to life. So hopefully that's given you some solid working examples of the kinds of tactics that we're after. And obviously you'll need to go through this for the other stakeholder groups as well. Right. So now that you've worked out the ways to engage your stakeholders to hit your objectives, obviously you need to actually mobilize your plan, which is really a matter of lining up those tactics to the overall initiative to make sure that they happen at the most appropriate times. For example, in our case of launching the new digital platform, you as the project director and the project team will have an overall project timeline that you can map these tactics onto. So with your engagement plan and now some really specific tailored engagement strategies, we can move along to part 3, which is how to evaluate your efforts. In other words, how you're going to measure success. So this is where you figure out how you can prove that the results that are expected are actually realized. Now here's the good news. If you've set up your engagement plan and strategies in the right way, together with those SMART objectives, the way that I've laid them out, then you're in luck. You've actually done all the hard work already in defining exactly what you need to track. Those key metrics and outcomes that'll allow you to produce objective measures to assess how you're going. For example, and I won't go through everything, just one example, referring back to your SMART objective for employees, which is, if you recall, to increase their adoption of the new digital platform to achieve 80% adoption rate and to improve their engagement with the new platform by 25% within 6 months. We know that we need to measure their adoption, which we can define for argument's sake as their first use of the platform. So as soon as a user uses the platform for the first time, the activity is logged and added to the adoption rate. And we can measure their engagement through, let's say, a combination of their satisfaction with the new platform as well as their ongoing usage. And so you can probably guess that we're going to need to get real specific about how we are going to set all of this up. For example, your IT infrastructure team can probably tell you how to extract data on each employee and their first use of the platform, as well as ongoing usage. And you want to decide on your reporting cadence. In other words, how often you want new data points to be logged, whether that's in real time or hourly, weekly, monthly, or whatever. For argument's sake, let's say for us this is going to be daily. And then you'll need to decide how you're going to report on this in a way that it can be easily understood and consumed by yourself and others. So in our example, maybe this and other daily metrics roll up into weekly and monthly project dashboards or something. It needs to tie together. Measuring your stakeholder engagement is really the only way to objectively assess if what you've implemented is working as expected. So in many ways, this is the most important part. Don't leave it out. Even if you're doing this for yourself, for your pet project, or even at home, let's say you're doing a home renovation, don't assume success. You'll need to have a way of tracking your metrics from the moment you start, and those metrics should also include targets that, yes, have also been discussed and agreed with key stakeholders, whether that's a project team, your manager, or any others. So that's a little tip. But here's a big tip. When I was doing a lot of project work, I would typically work this stuff out at the same time that I was figuring out the strategies. So for instance, one of the tactics for employees was those training sessions. Now those sessions are actually a great opportunity to survey employees at the end of each session to measure the impact that the session had on their satisfaction with the new platform. And in this way, you could measure the ongoing improvement in their satisfaction as you roll out those training sessions. And at the same time, I'd figure out the detailed mechanics of how this is going to work. For example, if the sessions are going to be in person, then maybe at the conclusion of each training session, just as it's wrapping up, the trainer hands out, say, a paper survey with 5 simple questions which the attendees fill out, and they're instructed to fold their survey, so it's anonymous, that way you'll get a more accurate result, and get them to pop their folded surveys into maybe a little ballot box, which is held by someone right at the door as they're leaving. So you make sure that you're getting a 100% response rate as well. So the reason why I just went through all of that is to demonstrate that there's a lot of heavy little details to work out, but without that full understanding of exactly how everything's going to happen, believe me, you're asking for trouble. And by trouble, I mean a half-assed solution and probably pretty crappy results. So as you're thinking through your tactics, I strongly suggest that at that point, it's the perfect time to break down each tactic until you know exactly what the elements are and how you're going to do everything. Sometimes you'll find that it's just too difficult or costly, so you'll need to change a particular tactic. Other times, you might find you need to start engaging with other stakeholders to get their buy-in to help execute a tactic. Just a couple of examples of why I think it's always a good idea to do it this way. Now, we just covered quite a bit of ground really quickly, so to bring it all back together for you, here's a quick recap. Begin by creating a stakeholder engagement plan. And you do this by firstly gaining clarity on your overall goals of whatever you're trying to achieve, and then understanding your stakeholders by segmenting them into groups. In our case, we had those employees, customers, and partners. And then defining your engagement objectives for each of these groups by asking yourself what you hope to achieve for each of them, and remembering that these objectives should be SMART. Next, create tailored engagement strategies for each of your stakeholder groups, and you do this by catering to each group's unique characteristics, interests, and needs, and don't forget to be real specific about not only what the elements are, but also exactly how the elements are going to be executed. But because these are still effectively lists of separate elements, which are not tied together, you'll need to now actually mobilize your plan by aligning these elements to your overall plan and timeline, making sure that they're happening at the most appropriate and impactful moments. And finally, in order to objectively inform yourself and others of how you're progressing through all of this, you'll need to evaluate your efforts by using those SMART objectives to define what to track, those key metrics that are going to drive your results, and also exactly how to track it, the mechanics of how to gather data on an ongoing basis to feed into your reporting with appropriate cadence, so that it can be easily consumed at appropriate intervals and let you and others know how you're going. At its heart, this is actually a very simple process, but as you can see, there is a lot of detailed work involved, and it's typically very, very time consuming. But the great news is, while it's not a 100% guarantee of success, I can guarantee that you'll very likely achieve outstanding results if you do this properly with delighted stakeholders and no broken light bulbs. Now, as promised earlier, I've got a free gift to share with you, which will help you with your most important stakeholder, your boss. It's a guide to help you master one-on-one conversations with them, a powerful tool that can really help your career. Simply follow the link to Risevale Business School in the description below to grab your free copy right now. Don't forget to check out all the other stakeholder management episodes also linked below, and while you're there, it would mean so much to me if you liked this video, and if, like 95% of my viewers, you haven't yet subscribed, please do. It helps the channel grow and put out more videos like this. And press the notification bell so that you don't miss out on future episodes when they're released. And why not share this episode with a friend or colleague, helping them to go further faster as well. Till next time, keep rising.